The pale axe-bearer, the coming of Hrafnkel, the sea gave him no welcome. From the black waves came Hrafnkel, broad as an ox, taller than two men, his flesh pale as bone, scars crude and cruel. In his hand a massive axe, edge darkened by time and blood. The fishermen of Håkonsvik saw him rise from the surf and fled, screaming of a draugr. But a skald who would one day follow him wrote differently. His name was Hrafnkel, and men would remember him as the pale axe-bearer. Alive, yet haunted by sorrow, Hrafnkel became both terror and hope, a legend among men in the land of fjords and sagas. The first raid, Vargheim in flames, terror in the night. Vargheim burned. Raiders dragged villagers to their ships. Amid the screams, a pale giant strode from the darkness. These were the men of Jarl Stenolf the Cruel, whose longships prowled the coast like wolves. Hrafnkel stood at the edge of the burning village, watching flames leap from roof to roof. He saw villagers dragged from their homes, their cries echoing in the night. For a moment he hesitated, sorrow and anger warring within him. Then, seeing a mother clutching her child, he gripped his axe and strode into the chaos, determined to help. With resolve hardening his heart, Hrafnkel moved through the chaos. His axe cleaving a path, he shielded a mother and child, lifting a burning beam with one hand. The screams and clash of steel echoed through the night.
Run! Hide in the woods! I will hold them back!
From the forest came the pale giant. The firelight caught his scars and the great axe in his hand.
Draugr!
A raider cried, torch tumbling into the snow. The pale axe-bearer said nothing. He cleaved the man in two. He crushed another beneath his boots. He tore through the raiders until the survivors fled to their longship, screaming of a corpse warrior who wielded death itself. When the village was quiet, Hrafnkel carried children from the flames and helped the wounded. The villagers, no longer afraid, gathered around him, their voices trembling with gratitude. One by one, the villagers bowed their heads to Hrafnkel. "Thank you," whispered a mother, clutching her child. Others pressed gifts of bread and wool into his hands, their eyes shining with relief and awe. Humbled, Hrafnkel nodded quietly, then slipped away into the woods as dawn broke.
Night in the woods. Einar, harp on his back, quietly follows the pale giant. He hesitates, then calls out, "Hello! Who are you?"
Hrafnkel turns sharply, axe ready, voice low and wary. "Why are you following me? Speak quickly."
Einar steps forward, hands raised. I'm Einar, a bard. I saw you at the village. I don't mean any harm. What should I call you?
Hrafnkel grunts, still cautious. "Hrafnkel, some call me Ravenkin. The ravens follow me. Bad luck for some."
Einar, awkwardly, "Ravenkin, is that because of the birds or something else?"
Hrafnkel, after a pause. "The birds and the dead. Ravens come where I go. It's just a name."
Einar, quietly, "You don't seem like a monster."
Hrafnkel, voice softening. "Monsters are just men with too many scars."
Einar, with a small smile, "Maybe I could write a song about you, Hrafnkel."
Hrafnkel, almost amused. "If you must."
And so in the quiet woods, a bard and a giant met, strangers at first, but no longer alone.
Einar, thank you for not sending me away.
Hrafnkel, you are persistent. That is rare.
Their uneasy conversation marked the beginning of a strange friendship.
Einar, standing at the edge of the woods, spots Viking raiding ships approaching the shore. His eyes widen in alarm. "Raiders! I must find Hrafnkel!" Einar sprints through the forest, branches whipping past, calling out, "Hrafnkel! Raiders are coming!"
Hrafnkel, sharpening his axe, looks up as Einar bursts in. Einar, breathless. "Raiders at the shore!" Hrafnkel stands, gripping his axe. "Show me!"
They run through the woods toward the shore, Hrafnkel's long strides and heavy axe outpacing Einar, who struggles to keep up. As they reach the shore, the raiders' longship shoves from land. A pale, scarred figure, Hrafnkel, bursts from the trees, terrible and swift, drawn by the suffering of the captives and the promise of vengeance. Hrafnkel waded into the surf, his axe rising high. With a mighty blow, Hrafnkel split the hull of the first longship. The raiders screamed as the sea rushed in. Warriors screamed as the sea swallowed them. Hrafnkel fought through 3 longships, his axe shattering wood and iron alike. In each ship he broke the chains of the thralls with his bare hands, freeing them as water poured in. The freed captives wept and clung to him.
"He is no man. He is a storm given flesh. He breaks our chains and our courage."
The thralls, now free, wept at their deliverance as the broken ships drifted in the surf. From the rocks above, Einar sang.
Hrafnkel comes with pale, scarred hand. He breaks the chains, he frees the land. No master's ring, no jarl's command. The axe-bearer walks alone.
The third raid, the Wolves of Winter. Winter came, Stenolf, enraged, sent 3 longships of Huskarls to hunt Hrafnkel. They found him on a frozen fjord, waiting. The warriors advanced across the ice, shields raised, breath steaming in the frigid air. Hrafnkel stood alone, his axe gleaming, waiting as the Huskarls formed a line. For a moment all was silent but the wind, then with a roar, the first wave of warriors charged. Spears flew, boots thundered, and the frozen fjord shook as steel met steel. Hrafnkel swung his axe in wide arcs, sending men tumbling across the ice. As the battered survivors of the first wave staggered back, Hrafnkel stood unmoving, his breath steaming in the icy air, blood staining the snow at his feet. The second wave of warriors, desperate and howling, rushed across the frozen fjord. Hrafnkel did not move until they were nearly upon him. Spears shattered against his body. He swung his axe again, sending more men sprawling. Blood stained the snow, and the howls of the dying mingled with the winter wind. At last the warriors broke and fled, leaving the ice red and silent.
You come for a monster, you will find only death.
Spears cracked, arrows struck, yet Hrafnkel did not fall. His axe shattered shields, his hands crushed men like twigs. His boots painted the ice red. When the Huskarls fled, Einar came to him shivering.
You could be a king.
I will not be what men make me. Not again.
The wrath of Stenolf, a battered messenger, breathless and pale, stumbles before Jarl Stenolf. My lord, the Huskarls! They are broken! The pale axe-bearer slaughtered them on the ice. Few survived. Stenolf's eyes narrow, rage building. He glares at the messenger. Cowardice is a stain on my hall. With a swift motion, Stenolf strikes the messenger down before his warriors, the firelight flickering on their grim faces. He then calls his warriors to gather, his voice echoing with fury.
Hear me, warriors of the coast. Our brothers lie dead on the ice, their blood crying out for vengeance. I swear by Odin and all the gods, I will bind this Draugr, drag him to Uppsala and spill his cursed blood on the stones. Stand with me and I promise you riches, land and glory beyond measure. But let cowards beware. He scans the hall, eyes cold. Any man who refuses me, who trembles like a frightened child, will taste my wrath before the gods. Bring forth the doubters, Stenolf signals. His men seize two hesitant warriors, dragging them before the fire. Stenolf draws his blade and without mercy strikes one down. The hall falls silent in horror. Let this be the fate of all who defy me. Who among you will join me?
Stenolf gathered his warriors, axes and swords gleaming in the cold light. Around them, the warriors held their breath, waiting for the coming battle that would decide their fate. He gathered 5 longships, filled with the fiercest warriors of the coast, vowing vengeance for their fallen. The ships set out, their prows cutting through the cold sea, as Stenolf led his men to hunt the pale axe-bearer. They hunted Hrafnkel with horns and war cries, eager to carve their names in saga. As the enemy approached, villagers and freed thralls, those Hrafnkel had saved, gathered at the edge of the shore. Some armed themselves with axes and spears, others tended to the wounded or steeled their courage. Women and children carried water and bandages, old men sharpened blades, and the bravest among them practiced with shields. Though afraid, they stood ready to fight beside the pale axe-bearer, their faces set with grim determination as the sound of war horns echoed over the waves.
Stay back unless you must. This fight is mine. Do not risk your lives unless there is no other choice.
As dawn broke, the villagers and freed thralls gathered behind Hrafnkel. The air was thick with fear and hope. Hrafnkel stood silent, his axe resting on his shoulder, eyes fixed on the horizon where the enemy ships approached. Einar stood at his side, clutching his harp, his face pale but resolute.
Einar, voice trembling. Do you think we can win, Hrafnkel?
Hrafnkel, quietly, we fight because we must. Not for victory, but for those who cannot fight.
The enemy ships landed. Warriors poured onto the shore, their war cries echoing. Hrafnkel raised his axe, and the villagers braced themselves for the storm to come. The last battle doom of the cruel Jarl. Dawn breaks over the blood-soaked shore. Warriors from both sides stand in tense silence, axes and swords gleaming as the wind howls across the rocks. Hrafnkel stands at the front, villagers and freed thralls behind him, facing Stenolf and his warband.
Stenolf, raising his sword, voice booming. So you are the pale axe-bearer. They say you are a monster. Let us see if you bleed like a man. The warriors behind him roar, banging their shields.
Hrafnkel, voice low, steady, stepping forward. I have bled enough for 100 men. My past is written in scars and sorrow, each one a memory of what I have lost and what I have done. But today it is your blood that will stain these stones. The villagers and thralls tense, gripping their weapons.
Stenof, with a sneer, signaling his men. We shall see, corpse giant. Warriors, attack. Show him the wrath of the coast.
The two armies crash together with a thunder of steel and screams. Hrafnkel wades into the fray, his axe swinging in wide arcs, cleaving shields and bone. Stenolf's warriors swarm him, but he fights like a force of nature. Villagers and thralls battle desperately at his side, the beach turning red with blood. Amid the chaos, Hrafnkel and Stenolf find each other. The clang of steel and cries of the dying surround them as they circle, eyes locked, each searching for an opening. Hrafnkel does not flee. He meets Stenolf's charge, their axes and swords crashing together. The ground shakes with each blow. Around them men fall, but the two giants fight on, rage and resolve burning in their eyes. Men die screaming, helmets split, bones crack. Hrafnkel and Stenolf trade savage blows, neither yielding. Villagers and thralls hold the line, pushing back Stenolf's men. The tide of battle surges around the dueling leaders. On the rocks above, Einar stands, voice breaking with tears as he sings above the clash of battle.
Pale as winter, strong as stone, Hrafnkel fights the wolves alone. No jarl, no lord, no master's chain. The axe-bearer stands again.
At last Jarl Stenolf strode forth, golden helm gleaming, sword wet with blood.
What are you truly? Are you man, beast, or something the gods themselves fear?
Hrafnkel struck him down with one hand.
I am what your cruelty has made me, a monster born of blood and sorrow. Remember that as you fall.
As silence fell over the blood-soaked shore, villagers and freed thralls moved among the fallen. Some knelt beside the wounded, binding their injuries with torn cloth. Others closed the eyes of the dead, whispering prayers for their souls. The air was thick with grief and relief as survivors embraced and mourned those lost to the battle. When silence fell, the shore was thick with bodies. Hrafnkel stood bleeding, his cloak torn, arrows buried deep. Yet he did not fall. He turned to Einar.
Let them call me monster, ghost, or Draugr. I am what the world made me.
Will you ever find peace, Hrafnkel?
Hrafnkel gazed at the endless sea, silent.
Peace is for the dead, Einar. I walk where legends fade and sorrow is swallowed by the waves.
And he walked into the waves until the tide swallowed him whole. The legend of Hrafnkel, the pale axe-bearer, Einar sang of him until his dying breath. Skalds carried the verses across the north of Hrafnkel, the pale giant who bore an axe too heavy for mortal men, who raided the raiders, who fought the cruel, who belonged to no lord and no god. The people remembered him not as Frankenstein's creation, but as Hrafnkel, the pale axe-bearer, neither man nor ghost, neither cursed nor blessed, only a monster who chose his own path.